First thing I want to do is to read from an article that was published June 5th in the East Bay Times, June 5th, 2017. In the past 2 years, the number of Alameda County's homeless has shot up 39% to 5,629 people, according to a recent count. And half of those living in shelters, cars, tents, vacant buildings, or parks and under highways are in Oakland, according to the 5th Every Other Year Point in Time survey, results of which were released May 25th. That population is disproportionately black, 49%, and overwhelmingly single, 86%. 82% were living in the county when they became homeless, half of them for a decade or longer. The cost of housing was listed as the reason 57% became homeless, end quote. We are here because Oakland is becoming a tent city with homeless encampments on major thoroughfares and back streets throughout our city, including across the street from this very college. There are also those of us who are couch surfing and living out of cars. And there are also those of us who are either one paycheck or one rent increase away from being homeless ourselves. So we have come here as a community to humanize this issue and discuss what can be done. My name is Roger Porter, and welcome to Mental Health in the Hood for the homeless crisis in Oakland. First panelist, Candace Elder is an activist, organizer, and the founder and president of the East Oakland Collective. We're pleased to have her here. Round of applause for Candace Elder, please. And Mitzi Lewis is a homeless advocate who lived in a homeless encampment on 77th and Howley for 3 years. She is now housed and representing for the unsheltered people all over Oakland and the surrounding area. Round of applause for Mitzi. Prentice Mayo is a formerly unsheltered student at Laney College who is now sheltered and thriving. He just won a scholarship, by the way. And yeah, we're super juiced to have Prentice Mayo on the panel. Round of applause for Prentice Mayo. And Gerald Chambers is a marriage and family therapist based here in Oakland, California. At one point, he worked at the mental health clinic in West Oakland on Adeline. He has also worked with the unsheltered population in the Tenderloin of San Francisco. I'm overjoyed that Gerald has agreed to join us on the panel. Round of applause for Gerald, please. All right. So, first question, and this question is a general question, but more specified to our two panelists who were unsheltered at one point. What are some of the root causes of homelessness in Oakland? And, well, let's start right there. Let me start right there. What are some of the root causes of homelessness in Oakland that you have seen?
Drugs, people losing their homes. There's a lot of things that's out there that can lead up to homelessness. My case was a tragedy that I lost my little girl, and me and my daughter didn't want to stay in the city that she passed away in. So we came back out to here. We're originally from Oakland, but when we came back out here, it was like so surprising seeing so many people out there on the street. It was just strange.
From my experience, it was drugs too. A lot of people that I met out there, everybody pretty much was on drugs. I was also on drugs, and I was pretty much homeless by choice. Because of the drugs, I was ashamed to go around my family. And I did notice that a lot of people, if it wasn't because of drugs, it was just because of lack of awareness about how to even get housing or how to access programs or just basically how to even get started looking for housing.
Okay, all right. Candice, I know you work with the homeless in Oakland a lot. Could you tell us a little bit about your organization and some of the things that you have seen as far as some root causes to homelessness?
So the East Oakland Collective, we do racial and economic equity work primarily in deep East Oakland for underserved populations and communities. And part of our program, our homeless services and solutions, we do rapid response work with encampments, people sleeping in their cars, people sleeping in RVs, anybody who is unhoused. There are various definitions of what it means to be homeless, unhoused, or unsheltered, but we're glad to see that these definitions are expanding and includes anybody who does not have permanent and stable housing. That means if you're sleeping on somebody's couch and at any moment you can get kicked out, you are essentially unhoused, and you're just a step away from being on the street. So what we are seeing in across Oakland is that people simply cannot pay their rent. There are people who have jobs where they're regular 9-to-5s and they are on the street. There are people they may have a couch to sleep on, but it's all the way in Modesto or Stockton, and they need to be able to be close to their kids, close to their place of work. So they are in a tent. In Oakland, they are living in their car. In Oakland, I've seen people in Audis and Mercedes, like in their cars, they don't have a roof over their head, but the car is the only thing that they have. So I do agree that, drugs plays a lot of it, a big part. But I think the reason why people are on the street and they're on the street for so long is because they cannot afford rent. They cannot afford to live in this city.
So what was the most difficult thing about living on the streets, and how did you go from being homeless to being sheltered?
The most difficult thing, that's kind of hard to say because everything was difficult. It was just really hard to find some place to sleep comfortably.
Okay.
That was like one of the biggest things for me. Just finding some place to sleep and being able to get a meal. But, and also dealing with the rain. That was like a real big thing for me. I hated when it rained. Obviously, you're soaking wet, socks feeling like you're walking on a sponge. I mean, there's, I can go on forever. But.
Well, in my situation, I think the worst was worrying about the fear of being out there. Even though where I lived, it was pretty quiet over there, but it was still dangerous over there because you had the pimps and the hoes bringing their little girls in the back area because it was a dead end, figuring they go, okay, we're gonna get on over this way. But for my case, I had someone there by my side, so when I felt scared, I was with that person. It was just a point of you don't know where your next meal is going to come from, if you're going to be able to take a shower or how to go to the bathroom, or stuff like that. But you can make it. As long as you're strong here, you can make it. There are resources out there, but a lot of people don't know how to go about it, or they don't have people to help them with it, or how to explain. It's like a wake-up call once you're out there.
So speaking of resources, both of you guys went from living in the streets to you are now sheltered. How did that come about? What did you do? What was the process like for you to get off of the streets and to become sheltered?
Well, because of my medical conditions that I had, mine was through my doctor. Because by right, I'm still blessed to be here. because I'm a person that had 6 strokes, 6 blood clots, congested heart failure, MS, just been diagnosed again with seizures. Sometimes I lose the ability to talk, ability to walk. I have trouble remembering things, but because of my medical conditions and the things, my doctor really worked hard, and I had a good social worker also that worked with me through the doctor, through the place where I was at, my doctor's office, that came out and fought for me to be able to get a place. And there's an organization called Adobe. It's right over here on Hagenberger. They used to be on 17th and Broadway, but down there over here where the Wells Fargo building is on Hagenberger. And that is a housing place. They help you find housing. Adobe on Hagenberger. So you can go there. You can also, for anybody who's disabled, they have other organizations that can help, like Adobe's one. I can't think of the other one. It's on the tip of my tongue, guys.
Prentice, what was your process like going from being unsheltered to getting housing?
Well, this was pretty much a struggle. First, even before I just really came to the conclusion that I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired, first I went to Cherry Hill, and unfortunately, the director there, the person that did my intake, didn't believe that I was blind because I don't use a cane. And so I was rushed out of there and back on the street.
The person, hold on, you went where?
I went to Cherry Hill.
You went to Cherry Hill, and for those that aren't familiar with Cherry Hill.
Well, Cherry Hill is a detox center,
Okay.
up on 150th.
Okay, and you said you needed special services because you were blind, and he said,
well, no, I didn't even need any special services.
Right.
What it was, well, actually, I did need special services. I couldn't fill out the intake form.
Right.
And so I explained that I was legally blind,
Uh-huh.
and I just need some help filling out the form.
And the person working there didn't believe you because you did not have a cane.
Because I didn't have a cane.
I just want to make sure I heard you.
Yeah, you heard me right.
Okay, all right.
And so I was told to go grab a mat or whatever because they, put you on the floor. And so I went over to the rack where the mat was, and I was able to grab the mat, and I was told that, you may not be able to stay here because you're going to have to, kind of fend for yourself or whatever the words were. And so after I explained to her, we had a couple, back and forth or whatever, and explained to her my situation, and she became irate or whatever, and I ended up leaving. But then there was another time there, a similar situation with another counselor there, when the person, I was looking at a pear, and it looked like something was on the pear, and I was examining it, and the guy made a comment, and I told him that, I didn't appreciate the comment. I'm real sensitive about my eyesight. And I went and laid down. Well, before I even went and laid down, the person told me that, well, what you gonna do about it?
This person working there?
This person working there. So I went and laid down, and then he came and told me I had to leave. And we had a meeting with another staff member that was working there, and I was basically told to leave. And at that time, I was just like, man, forget it. If I can't even go here and get help, then oh well, forget it. But what really happened, which gave me hope, was that a lot of friends, because see, I grew up in the city, and I know a lot of people out here, and a lot of people, where they would see me hustling and panhandling and stuff, would come, and they just showed me a lot of love. And that's basically really what did it. I had one friend who right now, I haven't seen him in a while, but he had kidney failure, and he go through dialysis every day, and he rode up on me and told me what he was going through, and he was just telling me, man, it's time to give it up, because he was also homeless at one time, and we had a similar story. We ran the streets together, but basically just that overall, that abundance of love, just people just giving me, not judging me, and you know what I'm saying, just, hey man, you gonna be all right, just little positive words or just sometimes listen to me talk. Things like that is what really just like lifted me up and just, gave me that willpower to say, you know what, I'm finna go do this.
Okay. All right. I'm going to get to some of the questions that people are posting via the link in front of you. There was one question, you can't see it right now, but it's how does, and I want to ask Gerald first, he's our therapist, said, how does homelessness impact pre-existing mental illness? I kind of remixed it a little bit, but that was the gist of it. Yeah.
Well, one of the ways that homelessness impacts pre-existing conditions is that it exposes you to the worst stress that a person can suffer. Social isolation, low rank, lost status, and the inability to determine a real threat from a non-threat. If one is in that position for a long time, any number of things can happen, and they're pretty much all bad.
Okay.
It's very, as people have been talking about, it's very, very difficult to be homeless, to lose your place in society.
Okay. All right. Mitzi, I know you said that you had some pre-existing health issues, and you being on the street, I'm sure that made those a lot worse.
Yeah, I know.
Make sure you use you don't have to use a microphone, I guess, if you.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
The way I figured it was like mind over matter.
Okay.
Don't get me wrong, some of my health did kind of knock me down a few times where I ended up in the hospital. Can you guys hear me? Y'all can't hear me? Sometimes I end up in the hospital a few times because of my diabetes. That's something else that's out there with that homeless. Some people don't have ways of checking their sugar. A person who's a diabetic, you have to make sure you have plenty of water. They tell you that if you're diabetic, don't eat sugar. Don't believe that crap. Everything we eat has some kind of sugar in it. Don't care how healthy you go. It has some kind of natural sugar in it, and that can bring up your sugar. Also, stress. Stress is a big, big one. And see, my case, I've also have COPD and congestive heart failure. Right now, I'm beating at a 35% heart rate. But you would look at me and wouldn't even believe it. It's like people out there, you look at them and you walk by them and you say, that person's on drugs. In my case, I've never been on drugs. I got out there because I lost my youngest child. And it's hard when you're losing somebody. And all kind of things go through your head. You're missing, especially if it's a baby. My daughter passed away 2 years ago. She was 11 years old due to a seizure. You have people that's out there homeless that don't have or cannot get their medication because of insurance, or they don't know, the doctors don't feel that, oh, well, they're out there doing what they want to do. Why should we give a care? It's not fair. Like right now, I have a place, me and my husband has seizures. He's been in the house. I've been right there by him. And the thing is, a couple of times I saved his life, because if he was there by himself, he would have been, as they would say, another black man dies. They wouldn't have cared. He's homeless. They wouldn't have cared. He was out there longer than I have. And he had a social worker and his social worker didn't tell him about resources until I came along. And see, I know how can I say? I know how to do the system. My mother was a teacher. My grandmother was a nurse. You don't always have to go to the hospital if you're sick. There are remedies that can help you. If you have parents that's from the South, you bring back them old-fashioned home remedies They may stink, they may taste nasty, but trust me, they work. My doctor will call me on the phone, don't you think it's time for you to come in? No, I'm fine. No, you need to come in. I ain't seen you in 4 or 5 months. That's because I'm doing good. Also, people will ask me, oh, I'm so sad that you're out there homeless. How do you feel? You know what? Actually being homeless and out there, maybe it was the people I was with, I felt happy. It's like you can breathe. Yeah, don't look shocked. You can be happy and be homeless. You know, it's bad, but it's not that bad. Like in the summertime, most of you guys is gonna go camping and go to the beach and everything. Guess what? I don't have to pay no money to go do nothing. Take a water hose, old-fashioned way. Take a water hose and a bucket. Have a water fight out there. You know, but it really depends on how you look at everything. It's not color-coded. Like they say, you looking through rose eyes. No, it's not color-coded. It's reality. It's life.
Mitzi brings up some really good points, and what my organization, the East Oakland Collective, is doing, along with our community partners like the Village, is trying to change the narrative of what homelessness is. There are brilliant, resilient people living in encampments. I discovered an encampment in deep East Oakland just the other day that I don't think anyone knows about because it was so off the radar. They built a bridge system throughout their entire encampment because they're living on water. Now the water is toxic, but they're living on the water, and they built a bridge. I walked through a bridge through this entire encampment, and that's how they're avoiding the water. There are people that are building their own tiny homes. You know what I'm saying? We have got to, stop criminalizing the homeless and applying these stigmas that everybody's on drugs, even that everybody has mental health problems, people don't want a job, that they're lazy. No, there are people who, you can be sitting right next to someone that is homeless. Someone in your class can be homeless. There are homeless kids. You never know what someone is going through until you talk to them. So we have got to stop judging people and actually talk to people and engage with folks. That's why we started the Feed the Hood program, so not only to feed people, but to also be a resource to them and to be a help. Sometimes people just need a listening ear. They haven't talked to someone. Someone has not told them good morning, good afternoon, because caseworkers are actually not acting humanely, viewing everybody as a client, just not as a human being who is just like us. When we met Mitzi through Feed the Hood, and we were, Feed the Hood is a program that we run where we feed every single homeless, unsheltered person in Oakland. It's a huge effort. We bring about 300 volunteers together, and we do it every 2 months because it's so huge. We raise about $10,000 to $15,000 for each event, and we provide 3,000 lunches and 3,000 hygiene kits. And we hit every single encampment, every single corner, every single bus stop. If you come out of alley or whatever, we will provide for you. And then from there, we started to do the rapid response program, where I have a team about 15, 20 people that are on call 24/7, and we go out and address any crisis. We stand in the gap between our homeless brothers and sisters and the police, because they are being harassed by the police every damn day. They are being removed by the city every week, every Friday. The City of Oakland administration meets to decide which encampment is going to get clean and which encampment is going to get removed. I just handled a removal this morning where we had to pack up this woman's stuff. and move her and tell her you have to go. Why? Because a business complained. So we have got to change the narrative. You know why these encampments are being removed? They are being removed because we are complaining. Residents of Oakland are calling their council members, they are calling the city departments, and they're saying, not in my backyard. Businesses are doing this, not in front of my business. This person is taking up too much space. Yes, we know that there are encampments that have a lot of trash and something, but we have to change how we respond and we react to stuff. How about go out there with a trash bag and say, can I help you clean up? Can I help you get rid of some of this stuff? Do you really need all this? So it's like, instead of being, calling and complaining, even if you kind of nicely complain, the city marks it as a complaint. I have the list is public, and it will show every single complaint that has came into the city, and it is a map, of where everything is, So we need to get on Nextdoor, and we need to talk to our neighbors and everything. I have one of my friends who is unsheltered is staying in her car in front of my house. One of my neighbors said something slick to her. So what did I do? I wrote a note. And I said, we know what's going on in Oakland with the homelessness crisis. So if you have a problem, you come talk to me, right? And we know that people come to my street where I live because it's safe. So I told my neighbor, there's a lot, I wake up every day to about 10 car sleepers, and instead of being mad at them for throwing their trash out, I said, okay, I'm going to talk to them. Instead of calling the police on them, I'm going to talk to them. So we have to teach each other different humane and compassionate ways to deal with this crisis. We're not saying, take someone dumping in your yard or put up with certain behaviors, but instead your first response of being, let me call the city and complain, let me call OPD or something like that, let me talk to this person, and let's see how we can work out a solution. It could be as simple as, a trash bag. It could be simple as getting your friends together and doing lunches, and stuff like that. But I can go on and on. Let me get off my soapbox on that.
Right on. I want to get to another one of these questions because it's popping right now. You guys submitting questions. Awesome. But before I do, Feed the Hood, when is the next one, and can they be a part of that?
Yeah, I think our next one won't be until August, but we are going to do some other community service projects around the encampments. For one, we want to finish building some of these tiny homes that our unsheltered brothers and sisters have started, and they just need, extra supplies. They just need extra help. We are going to do some encampment cleanups. We have done that before, where we came and cleaned up all the illegal dumping, had the city come pick it up, and then we also got food donations and sat down and broke bread with them. Let's stop dropping food off and let's actually sit down and eat with folks and talk to people. And just really quickly, one thing, I do not dump anything at an encampment without asking them, do they want it first? Because you are, first of all, just how you would want somebody to ask you, would you like this? They might be vegan, as far as you know, so don't just dump off some chicken, So ask them first. Really ask people first. And don't think I'm gonna clean up my closet, it's spring cleaning, and I'm gonna put all these clothes, at this encampment because I think they want it. No, ask people, do they want stuff? And also, because what we advise people is, you don't want to contribute to the hoarding. You don't want to contribute to the buildup of trash, because that's going to attract more attention to them. So ask someone if they want it, and if they don't, take it back home with you, and you figure out what to do with it.
Okay, this is coming from the chat. It says, beyond the standard plague of gentrification, what other political, policy-driven barriers exist in Oakland that have hindered development of mixed income and low-income housing? For anyone. Beyond the standard plague of gentrification, what are other political, policy-driven barriers that exist between Oakland and why haven't we made more low-income and mixed-income housing in Oakland? That's cool.
Okay.
What stopped it? Let Gerald chime in I think Gerald wants to. Go ahead, sir.
The one thing I would say is that in our society, the cheese has been moved.
The cheese has been moved.
You know, we're no longer a manufacturing society. Now we are a high-tech society, and high-tech growth is leading to high property values and a lot of the disparity in income that we have, wealth and income. So that's one of the things. We have to learn how to re-educate our society for the jobs that are available today rather than jobs that we expect to come back from yesteryear.
Okay. And you think that's contributing to homeless to people? Okay.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Just since I've been back at school after however many years, our school system seems like it's lacking. Like, that's the start of it for me. I think because if you're talking about social policies and things of that nature, if you go back to just the redlining whole situation with the redlining, it's just funny, I was just watching a video on it. Just the fact that our black schools, the education that they're given, you know, from early on, even before the 4th grade, I mean, for me personally, it was like, what am I aspiring to? Because nothing reflected me that was being taught. So if I don't see me growing up as something to aspire to, then I'm gonna go on and do what I see everybody else doing. And that's pretty much what happened with me. And I think that's where the whole displacement really comes from. It all starts with education.
Okay. What's the holdup with building the low-income housing, though? Like, why haven't we built more low-income housing in the city of Candace?
There are actually a lot of rules and regulations and policies at the city level that need to go. That is actually preventing the development of affordable housing. I think someone just told me this yesterday, a affordable housing developer can only put in one application per year. So therefore you have to, so all the affordable housing developers are exhausted, locally. So you have to seek someone outside of the Bay Area and to come in and build. There's also issues with, zoning regulations. That's why, and we need to stand up at City Hall and fight against some of these policies that are prioritizing market rate development. The city is being sold to the person to the highest bidder who can develop the fastest with just a minuscule amount of affordable housing units. And then when you look at the terms of affordable housing, it's stuff that we still can't afford. So you have to expand the definition of affordable housing to no to low income. So that means so no income will include the people who are homeless and unsheltered. There's also these evictions, these crazy evictions, no rent control. We need to repeal Costa-Hawkins. So, and that's at the state level. So I think there's so much working against affordable housing that you can't build it. And then it takes too long to build. It takes 3 to 5 years. In some new affordable housing developments like Coliseum Connections by the Coliseum Bar Station, it was 10 years in the making. So, we have to look at alternative solutions as well to housing. And that is building tiny homes, that's looking at container homes, because immediately we need to get people off the street. Like what my brother and sister said here, there is, people are being raped, there's drug dealers who are in the encampments. When we go to feed, we got to move the drug dealers out the way and be like, don't give this person a lunch because he's not homeless, he's a drug dealer. We have to warn people about that. So our people in the encampments on the street are actually being preyed upon. I've visited, Mitzi several times, and we've seen vans go back and forth, and I'm just like, what is this person doing? watching the women, in the encampments. And I'm a savage. I'll go knock on their window, no problem, and talk to them. And Mitzi and her husband be like, Candace, come back here, So, and I said, I don't care, because somebody has to stand up for our folks. Somebody has to stand up, for the voiceless and stuff like that. So we have to, the immediate solution is to get people off the street and behind protection, behind a fence, be on safe property. And that looks like reclaiming public lands that the city is sitting on and not doing anything with. And they are sitting on it because they want to sell it to market rate developers. It's also looking at reclaiming or reutilizing private lands. We have a lot of churches who are sitting on property and ain't doing nothing. I was gonna curse. They're not doing nothing with it. They are not doing nothing with it. So there's enough money, enough resources and funding in the Bay Area to solve the homelessness crisis 10 to 15 times over, and we're not doing it.
How can the influx of wealth that gentrification brings be used to improve mental health issues for the homeless? Can the two even coexist? Now, Gerald, I know you worked in West Oakland, which is ground zero for gentrification in Oakland at least. You worked in West Oakland for a number of years. So do you think that the wealthier people coming from all over the country to work in tech and other fields in Oakland, how can we use their resources to help the very, very, very poor that have been in Oakland for a long time?
That's a really big question. You got to keep in mind, I'm a marriage and family therapist, right? So what I do is I deal with the content of the mind and your relationships to try to help you get better. I don't know if the country is ready for us to run on anybody's wealth, to take anything from the ones that have it. But we got to be a little bit more compassionate as people. I think the big thing for me is helping people acquire skills that will allow them to go to work and earn a decent living. Okay. That's my big thing. And I also think that we need to focus on the mental health aspect of homelessness, because homelessness is a type of trauma. And we don't deal with trauma well in the United States, and we need to work on that a little bit more. As you hear from some of the panelists that have been homeless, there was some event that happened. And that event is something that we need to try to help people deal with. Trauma is devastating us. Worldwide, we got an epidemic of trauma that we don't know how to deal with.
Okay. So Prentice and Mitzi, I know the both of you guys are actually from Oakland. Oakland has changed drastically the past 10 to 15 years. Okay, yeah. So there's a lot of wealth and a lot of white people also moving to Oakland. When you were on the streets, what was your attitude toward people coming to Oakland with all this wealth? Was there resentment, or how did that make you feel? The fact that you were homeless and a lot of people were coming to Oakland with a lot of money and resources.
You got all these people coming out here. It's funny because you got people from Texas moving out here to Oakland and think they're going to make it big. It ain't. Oakland's changed a whole lot from when I was growing up. You can leave your door open, ain't got to worry about nothing. But now you have everybody and that's probably another reason we got a lot of homeless, because you got the homeless coming from San Francisco coming over here. You got people that's coming from different countries that's coming over here thinking they're going to be able to have a place. If you don't make their cup of tea, you ain't getting in. What I mean by that is, some people go on the disability. They look at you and see if you can make it. They judge you by appearance, not by the way you talk or act, but they judge you by the way you look. And see, by my mother being a school teacher, I can go on everybody's level. I can act proper. I have to keep it clean. I can act like a witch.
You don't have to filter yourself.
I can, yes I do. I can act like your mother, your daddy, your sister, your brother, and your grandmother. And on top of that, I can act like your pastor and your minister. Because let you know I am a minister. But my thing is, I work with the youth. I deal with them all ages. I even got people that's 90 years old, 80 years old coming and talking to me as mom. Everybody knows me as mom. And then I wonder, where in the heck did I have all these kids from? I only birthed 2, but I turn around, I got zillions. So since I got a zillion kids, I put that word out there. Okay, you want to help mom? This is what I need you to do. Go out there and help. I mean, if you get paid on a Friday and you got a few extra bucks, you see a homeless person, go to McDonald's or something and buy them something to eat. Because a lot of them you think just want money. They don't. They just want food, clothes, shoes. Because these are materialistic things that they can't have. The women out there, they get misused a lot. You got young girls out there 13, 14 years old. Because they're homeless, they get put on the corner. A sweet talking man, a man would think he got skills, comes along, whispers something in their ear, and there they go. I can promise you the world. You don't have to live like this no more. Then you got single mothers out there figuring the only way that they can keep food in their kids' mouth is go out there and sell their body. You got, no offense to you men, but you got these deadbeat dads and wannabe boyfriends figuring they women should call them a king and treat them like a king, but that runs 2 ways. You understand what I'm saying? If you want that respect, you got to earn that respect. And because of the way these men and some of these women around here, they don't know which way they want to go. They figure they're taking the easy way out. Maybe if I fool with a female, she knows how to treat me. Maybe if I go fool with this dude, he'll know how to treat me. That ain't true. Your self-esteem is already gone. You got to work on yourself. You need to get up in the morning, look at yourself in the mirror, and tell yourself that you love yourself, that you're beautiful, because we have all different races in this room. And men, you guys could do the same. I advise you, for those who have girlfriends and maybe some kind of rocky relationships, ask yourself, is that the way you would treat your mother? Is that the way you would treat your sister? I even go deeper than that. Now, all y'all know your grandmas would tap your behind if you get to acting stupid. Either you get the switch, the stitching cord, or you get that famous pull with the ear, or that old-fashioned grandma, as I call the pinch. And everybody know you gonna swerve and move. Think about that. How would your grandmother feel if you mistreated another person? They didn't raise y'all like that. For those who, leave me alone. No, I'm not preaching. They don't raise you like that. So you guys, when you see a homeless person out there, so I don't know, some of you guys are homeless out here, they just like to say hi, hear your voice, give them some encouraging words, ask them how they're doing today.
Okay. Gerald, you want to chime in?
I wanted to come back to the policy issue because I remembered something. There's a book out called The Color of Law. The guy's name is Rothstein, I think. He was recently here, and he was looking at housing in the United States historically, and the federal government played a large role in housing discrimination. And that's something that we have never really addressed. The schools were integrated, but housing was never really integrated. And so it's a tremendous advantage to give someone a house, and then when the market goes up, all that equity, I'm just gonna say white people were able to bequeath that equity, that value over to their offspring, and part of that advantage It's why we have the housing problem we have right now, the big disparity in wealth between people of color and whites in the country. We never have addressed that. So I think we were good to say that everybody that's homeless is not out there for the same reason. And so we do have to work on that stigma. But some of this is just discrimination and a legacy of discrimination.
Okay.
Thank you for saying that. Because that's what was missing.
All right. So it says there's a lot of people out there pretending to be homeless. Does that affect the real homeless?
Yes.
And how can someone tell the difference?
No offense to the person who submitted that question, or maybe an offense to the person submitting that question, but it's stigmatizing. First of all, like, how do you know a lot of people are pretending to be homeless? Like, let's just shut that down right now. There are some. So this is what I'm talking about in how we talk about homelessness and not knowing the narrative, not knowing people's lived experiences. Let's just say, let's address the question as there are some people out there pretending to be homeless, not a lot.
Yeah, I definitely understand where my sister was coming from. That reminds me of people saying that I was playing being blind. You know what I'm saying? How can you tell? Pretend homelessness. Right at the start of this this discussion, it was said that people couch surfing, you're homeless. You know, there's different levels of homelessness. Yes, there is. So I would really be careful with that pretending being homeless, because there is no benefit. Like, what, somebody will give you $1 or a cheeseburger or something, yeah, that's cool, it's appreciated, but like, that's not really living. Like, so if a person was pretending to be homeless, that would be something for you to answer, I think.
Okay, I'm gonna pose a few more questions, but so I wanna get down to this one, because an email just went out, an email blast just went out to Laney faculty and staff today, and it said that a lot of the crimes and theft here on campus are stemming from the homeless encampments around the area, particularly the one in the Henry J. Kaiser parking lot. And there's a debate amongst faculty and staff that is brewing, and people have gotten things stolen apparently, and some people feel unsafe and whatnot. But there are other people who are saying, no, the encampments deserve our protection and they don't need to be further criminalized. And I want to ask, Missy's going to go here next semester, you go here right now, Prentice, and the question is, as a student here and a person who was formerly unsheltered, what do you think is the best solution for working with our, the homeless encampments right in this area?
Well, I think it's been a common theme mentioned here today that compassion is the key. I don't know specifically like what the rates of things being stolen or misplaced or lost was previously, but assuming that it just skyrocketed, right? What I would do myself if I was in a position would be to walk over there and address the spokesperson of the group, or address the group and let them know the concerns and just be honest. And first of all, come respectfully, and and just let them know, hey, this is a concern right now, and this is, we don't want to single anybody out. We don't want to, however a person can articulate that to where it's not offensive, right? And because there's going to be pushback regardless. Mm-hmm. And basically just to talk to the people, because remember, these are people. I'm a person. Like if you saw me walking down the street, you wouldn't think I was homeless just a couple years ago. Most likely, right? These are still human beings, and I just think you have to be compassionate in whatever you do. That should be the first forefront of it.
You also need understanding. You don't know how they ended up that way. You don't know if it was a death in the family or something that led them out to end up like that. Try making friends with them. Because like I said before, the understanding that you have with that person, because they need somebody to talk to let them know, even though it's hard right now, it's gonna get better. Just like trials and tribulations, it's a big test being out there to see if you can survive.
How about the faculty going over there and offering him a job? So you worried, I would steal too. Honestly, that's real talk. You out there hungry and been hungry for days. You have no money. You are pushed to do things that you may not normally would do or want to do. So once again, we have to change how we react to things, and also build a relationship with those encampments so that the leaders. My organization, we know the leaders in encampment. We have their cell phones if they have one. That's why they tell us what's going on. They might even tell you who's doing it, if someone is doing it, right? So build a relationship and then find out how you can be of help. Maybe you need to expand, human services here and, offer people jobs, offer people some spot on work. I think there are lots of alternatives than to judge people, than to stigmatize them, and then to call the cops and whatever else, might be going on, and, sending these faculty letters, blasting them.
Okay, Gerald.
I was going to say, this kind of gets into my area, like conflict, right? So you want to make sure that the person that's talking to them has some skill at managing conflict, because you could go over there and make the situation worse by the way that you bring it up. And so a lot of times in a conflict, one of the rules is that the most powerful person in the conflict places the responsibility for keeping the peace on the least powerful. And so it's kind of just something to keep in mind when you're dealing with people. Like the suggestions that were made to have compassion, to have some empathy, watch what you say. Your conflict tactics are really important. That it'll go like you go. If you go bad, it'll go bad.
Okay, right on. So there's a question up there, and there was a homeless encampment that stretched from, I want to say 80th Avenue and East 14th or 82nd to 85th, and that encampment was removed. The question that an anonymous person posted is, what happens after the removal of an encampment? Does the city try to provide the people they remove services to help find housing?
Yes and no. Essentially, with encampment removals in the city, people are just simply removed and just told to go somewhere else. So the problem is there's nowhere else to go but on the streets. There is some housing, but I think it's mainly reserved for seniors, people with kids, and people with, extreme medical conditions. There is simply not enough housing. So even in the navigation centers that the city is opening up, there's the first one was on 6th and Castro. They're opening up another one on Northgate. They're telling people to keep your tent. Because after you are done with these, I think 180 days here, there may not be anywhere for you to go. So keep your tent, because you might be right back on the street. So that's why my group we are working on the Homes for All project, which is looking to house all of Oakland's homeless population, and do that by innovative ways such as tiny homes and reclaiming public lands, where they gotta cut open the damn fence and put people in there and worry about the consequences of squatting later, down the line. But that's what lawyers are for, right? So, and bail money. But, someone talking about what can we do about this new wealth? Tax the new wealth. There is enough money to solve the homelessness crisis. So we need to change the narrative, and we need to get Silicon Valley to care. We need to get these tech companies to care. If it's not about STEM, essentially they don't care. So we got to open up an engineering tent and encampment to get them to put money into it, so be it.
Okay, all right.
If you look at the ingenuity in a lot of these homeless encampments, like the one on the water, like that one just really amazes me. But I've been in some places, man. I mean, we had TV going and all type of stuff in the tent, right? I mean, so one thing that the idea is just like coming to me right now. If there was a type of program where you can utilize these people, utilize their brains, and help themselves by, some kind of program where they can help assist building their own houses, right? That might be something to help kind of uplift a person's spirit as well, and a lot of that tax money, that money that we tax off of the wealth can go to that.
Okay.
Tax campus.
Okay. All right. Did you say tax campus?
Tax cannabis. All these cannabis. So I think the city wants it first, but but like I said, that's why it's important to show up at City Hall and advocate, for some of these new and innovative regulations that people such as Rebecca Kaplan is proposing a ordinance on taxing these vacant parcels. We have a lot of absentee owners, in East Oakland. East Oakland is looking to be like the next green zone. So there's a lot of cannabis businesses that are opening and making tons of money, so funnel that money back into the community. Like I said, tax the old wealth, the new wealth, and that's some of the projects that East Oakland Collective is embarking on.
Okay. All right, so a few more questions. One says, do you think that the comparable skill gap in higher education and occupations versus low education occupations is linked to the increase in homelessness? Let's stop right there. Do you think that the skill gap in higher education and lower education is contributing to homelessness? Anyone want to take that on?
Simple answer, yes.
Okay, all right. Yeah?
Yes.
All right.
I mean, it's a straight.
Okay. Yes, sir. Go ahead, Gerald.
I would say it's contributing to a couple different things. One, discrimination is pervasive, but it's not pervasively effective. And so one of the ways that you can deal with discrimination is to gather skills that you can use within your own race or with another race. But we need to acquire those skills. But then the other thing is that we do need to retrain our society for the jobs that exist, like I was saying earlier. And so while that's not the total problem, that's a contributing factor.